Welcome back to TLDR. I'm your friendly neighborhood backcracker, Dr. Joe. With me, as always, is my hunk in crime. Together, we are the Woodward and Bernstein. As y'all found out last week, we had another great interview with Melissa Flores from The Dead Lucky. Did I fuck that up? The Dead Lucky, which is another book from the Massiverse. Nick, we have a thing for Radiant Black in the Massiverse.
We do, and we're going to have to keep doing more of it. And if you're finding us now on the live stream and you didn't listen to that, you didn't know that even happened, first of all, you should be following us on Twitter. That's a problem because we always tweet that stuff out. More importantly, if you don't want to follow us on Twitter, and that's not really your thing, you're finding us maybe on YouTube or on Twitch, go find our audio channels. We're on Apple, we're on Stitcher, Spotify, all the major ones, all the major audio podcast platforms. You're going to get all the interviews that we do delivered right to your listening device on Wednesdays when we do them right at midnight. That's midnight Eastern time. So the only way you're going to get those interviews. We've only done one live stream interview in the past with Snyder and Capullo. And Snyder, speaking of him, we'll be talking about him a little bit later on in this. But yeah, I had a blast with Melissa Flores. That was awesome. People probably don't know this, but Joe actually had to leave a little early in that interview. And I really thought about keeping that whole interaction in there. Like, oh, Joe feels so bad right now. Like, oh, I really want to do that. I really want to just let him get this one.
It was brutal. I was in the doghouse. There's no lie. I was in the doghouse for that. Because it was one of those things where we had
you don't want to go back in the doghouse.
Well, we just had to move things around, right? And it was no one's fault. It's just we had to move things around. So we ran a little late, and I didn't do my job of preparing dinner beforehand. So I had to, by the time we were running a little long, which was great because we had a great conversation. I didn't have dinner prepared in time, and so I was deservedly in the doghouse, but I felt so bad about having to jump out of the interview at the last minute there because it's extremely rude, and I felt absolutely terrible about it.
Well, I'll tell you what, Melissa Flores afterwards was bad mouthing you left and right. It was really, really uncomfortable.
I can imagine.
And she, but I had to do a lot of politicking with her afterwards. Be like, hey, could you come on again with us? And she said, yeah, absolutely, I'll come on with you again as long as Joe's not there. So that's kind of the caveat. Dumping this on you now. I haven't told you because you've been on vacation. Didn't want to ruin things. How was your vacation?
Vacation was great. Got some golf in. I took every day I was on vacation. I took at least 2 showers a day, all of which were outside, and half of which had a beer in my hand, and it was absolutely tremendous. Shower beers outdoors, can't beat it. And I picked up one of these, Wes. Nick. I golf with your other partner, Wes, twice this week. I feel like I know him better now than I know you.
Oh, don't rub it in. I said
I picked up this sweet shirt, huh?
Yep, that is a nice shirt. I would like myself a Hellfire Club shirt. I was definitely jealous of not. This is like the first time in my life I've ever jealous that I wasn't on the golf course.
I asked you multiple times, but you wouldn't fucking take the time.
You asked me once, and I've taken off a ton of time this summer because of my brother's wedding stuff and because in his bachelor party, and now I'm moving, so I'm taking more time off to do that too.
Yeah.
So
I see where your priorities are.
I'm with Bert in the chat. Thank you, Bert. Doc is getting too bougie. It's really unsettling.
But speaking of the shirt, I want to thank Wes, formerly of the Boxers podcast, for hooking me up with this shirt. His friend Dave Roy printed these bad boys out, asked me if I wanted one. And fuck yeah, I'm gonna take a Hellfire Club shirt.
Yep. Yeah. I wouldn't mind one too myself, but whatever.
Yeah, well,
speaking
if you had someone who loved you, maybe they'd get you one.
Maybe they would. Maybe they will. Maybe I'm cutting them short. Who knows? But I will say, Wes 2 of the Boxers podcast came up with a segment idea, Joe, that we're going to do for the first time at the end of this episode today, because we do have a mainline episode planned for you guys. No interviews this week, which I don't love that because we love doing the interviews, but at the same time, this is what our show was originally. So it's always fun to go back to this too.
Speaking of which, your formatting skills for that are fucking atrocious.
Dude, I don't know. I'm reading a thing that's 2 pages long, and I'm trying to figure it out.
I'm scrolling down, looking at it, and you've got triple space here, double space here. I don't know what you're doing with your indentations. Fucking wild. You're a writer. You're a professional writer.
But see, this is the thing. This is where I know I'm not talking to a writer, because any writer has their own process, and it's very weird. And I have these notes for me to understand not for you.
Schizophrenic is what that tells me. If I was to, sort of, make any sort of personality,
Hmm.
uh,
Interesting. Well, good
yeah,
thing is you're not that kind of doctor. So why don't we go? Why don't we get to catching up? Lord knows we both had plenty of time to catch up on some stuff, and we didn't have a what's new last week because you were away. So what do you got for me?
Oh man, I got a ton. So Ghost Rider issues 3 and 4, caught up on that. Fucking wild. Absolutely
Mm.
love it. Wolverine 22. Again, I'm loving the Deadpool stuff. I think it's been a great sort of addition to the Wolverine story at the moment. Red Sitha, number 3. This is a Red Sonja story, which has been absolutely fantastic. Superman. So I'll save this one for a second. So Dune, House of Cantley, issue 3. A Town Called Terror, number 4. This just gets better and better and better. This is if you love horror books, vampire stories, this this is a must read
See,
so
that's
far.
interesting. So I thought it's like I still think like okay, it's good. Like
Yep.
I don't absolutely love it because I
Oh,
think it
see.
is kind of crazy. I do think the art's good, but it's just when it comes to the story, I have an understanding of the direction, but still it's kind of confusing to me.
Yeah, I love what happened in this episode and the way it ended and sort of the revelation that happened. So I am 100% all and Simon Kudransky's art is absolutely, fantastic.
For sure.
So again, I definitely, I mean, we're both reading this, so we're not going to talk about it on the show, but this is one I would recommend, and I probably would have talked about on the show had we not prepared for an interview that never happened regarding it.
Yeah, that's yeah. Don't enjoy when that happens. God, that was yeah. I had forgotten about it. What else you
Um,
got for me?
So Impact Winner number 1. This is a book that I
Mm,
texted you immediately and said, and I called dibs, and I was only halfway through the book, but you informed me that it is a one shot.
yeah,
And ironically enough, you said it's based off an Audible series. Unbeknownst to me, I already had the Audible series downloaded on my phone, so
get
I must
out.
have read this somewhere and like added it, and then kind of forgot about it, which I'm prone to do.
You
Um,
no, never.
no, never. Nocterra 11. Holy
Mm-hmm.
shit, Nicholas.
Yeah,
Holy
yeah,
shit.
yep.
Ah.
Mm-hmm.
That was
Fucking
something else, right?
nuts. Nuts. That was something else. The just everything about that issue was insane, but the ending was like, holy shit, that was a twist I did not see coming at all. And I really hope that they continue to turn up the heat on that one. Of course, Nocterra was the book that kind of launched the interviews that we do on this show because our first conversation was with Scott about that when it was still just a Kickstarter campaign
Yeah.
before Image started
And it was,
publishing it.
and the Kickstarter was just sort of like for the script, right?
Yeah.
And so just that blew my socks off. Saga issue 60. This I enjoyed this issue. I feel like it's because of what happened with the mother there.
Oh,
What's his name?
why are we
Why am I
talking?
spacing on
What
his
is
fucking name?
the wife's name?
No, 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 not
Marco?
Marco. Thank you. With Marco's mother, and when she finds out the fate of her son, like this was a really good issue of Saga. I do feel like Saga's kind of like it started off really strong and then it's kind of flatlined. This one piqued my interest back up again. You know what
Okay.
I mean? And then Prometheus 1313. This is a sci-fi horror book.
Yeah, how was
It's
that?
fantastic.
'Cause I have that too. I did pick that
Yeah.
one up.
So I've been grabbing random books lately from Ablaze and Scout and
Mhm.
Behemoth, right? Some of these publishers that we don't really talk about a bunch, and this is one of them. I still have a couple more that I want to read that I haven't gotten to yet. But I like this. It's just kind of been my new favorite thing when going to the comic shop. It's like
Mm.
not just picking up like the indie books that I'm now just like whenever I see a number one, I don't care who it's from. I'm looking at it and I'll flip through it. As long as the art doesn't immediately like detract from it, I'll grab it. So
Mhm.
hopefully that'll help kind of spawn like us going down some further rabbit holes for you. But that was really
Yeah.
good.
Mhm.
But the interesting thing that happened this week, and it's a little bit of a spoiler. I've already put it out there what I'm talking about today, but I caught up on Superman, Son of Kal-El,
Mm.
issues 12 and 13, and this is a book that I've talked about it a lot on the show, and I've talked about how much I loved it. It's definitely had some peaks and valleys, but these last 2 issues, I had another book planned, as you know. I pulled a 180 within the 3-hour span, I think, about what we're going to talk this week.
Yeah.
Because
You have a lot of books to talk about. We're going to get, when we get to what's new, there's some books that came out this week, and it reminded me, you have 2 books that I'm sitting waiting on to read, and you haven't fucking touched on this show. But anyways, go ahead.
So one of the books was a fan of the show, a reader recommended book that I was going to touch on, but then I read these 2 issues and said, nope, now is the time to do Superman, Son of Kal-El. So I'll talk about that more in detail in a bit, but man, those are 2 solid issues, and I can't wait to discuss this book even further.
And there's another Tom Taylor book that I'm sure we're going to be talking about a little bit later on. As for me, of course.
And Daredevil.
Yeah. I thought you said it, and I was like, oh, maybe I just missed it because I was going through stuff in my head, but that's where I was going to lead off. Read Daredevil issue 1, of course. Chip Zdarsky. Awesome stuff. Great start. It's funny. He says, like, oh, yeah, Punisher and Daredevil are going to kiss. They did not kiss in this episode, but he did appear right away.
Kiss.
I'm confused. I don't think he cleared that up. And knowing Chip,
maybe, who knows? Yeah. Chip handles this kind. I mean, he's part of the sex criminals, right? I mean, so like he's not afraid to go there.
Yes.
But I think it was a metaphorical kiss. They did so. There was heavy Punisher in this book, and it was right what I expected.
Yeah, awesome stuff. Great stuff. And I did catch up on a Town Called Terror as well. Read Impact Winter actually before you did. That's how I knew all that information. I read 8 Billion Genies issue 3, which I do believe came out last week, along with King Spawn 12, Wolverine 23. I am fully caught up on that title. 8 Billion Genies, man, awesome. I cannot wait to talk about that on this show. What?
I meant Ordinary Gods. That was another one I caught up on.
For some reason, I thought you had that in there, and I was looking at my list as you're going through. Like, I forgot to jot this one down because I caught up on a ton, looking back some old stuff that won't talk about necessarily on the show that I've been trying to go back and look at too, like some of the boys stuff. But Ordinary Gods issue 7, finally get that return. It's really weird. Like, we've been out of nowhere. We're talking about it's been a while, and then boom, pops back up again. The one for me that was the biggest one, also Undiscovered Country, it was back as well. Issue 19 was great. Barbaric, The Harvest Blades, issue 1. I remember talking to you about this. The Barbaric, the first volume of that, and this is from Vault, who, like when you talk about the indie titles, you want to give a look all the time. Vault, we do get review copies for them now, so we have a little easier access to them. But them, Ablaze, those are ones I'm kind of with you on. Scout, wanted to check that stuff out once in a while too. But Barbaric was like, I think that first arc was like an 8.5 out of 10. I got to go back and look at it because like this issue right here was my comic of the week last week. It was fucking outstanding. It's just a full one-shot thing, all in one. You haven't read any of it, right?
No, I have not, because I believe you called dibs on the first Barbaric way back when. So
yeah, I think I gotta give this one, go back and look at it again, because I remember reading it and being like, okay, in terms of the plot, it's like all right. But in terms of the characters that you have, it's fucking outstanding. Yeah. And the axe, the axe's name is Axe. It's a talking axe, and that thing is worth the price of admission alone. So I think I got to go back, revisit it, and talk about it on the show, because I thought like, yeah, it's good, but I don't know if I can do it on the show. But being revisited by the character again, I think part of it was all the hype that it had around it. Like everybody was praising it, and I'm like, okay, it is good. There's no question. But I don't think it's as good as you're saying. And sometimes that can kind of not help the situation. But anyways, so maybe I'll talk about that down the line when you talk about some of the Snyder books that you need to talk about. I know we don't want to jump that far ahead yet. Let's go through take us through the Marvel books that came out this week.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Strap in and strap on. This is a list. Avengers 58. Miles Morales Spider-Man number 40. Darth Vader number 25. Star Wars number 25, She-Hulk number 5, Axe Judgment Day number 1, Alien Annual number 1, Iron Man 21, Venom Lethal Protector number 1, Knights of X number 4, Spider-Gwen Gwenverse number 4, New Fantastic Four number 4, Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings number 1. Read this, absolutely loved it. Nice. Han Solo and Chewbacca number 4. Savage Spider-Man number 5, The Marvels number 12, Deadpool Black, White, and Blood number 3, and Defenders Beyond #1. And out of all of those, Nicholas, there's only 2 that I give a shit about and are reading.
I don't think it's Black, White, and Blood Deadpool. I think it's the Liefeld Deadpool that's going on, whatever the hell that one's called.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's fine. That like Black, White, and Blood was great. This one, no, I don't. I have no interest in that. The new Fantastic Four. Again, like I wanted to give it a look, but it's definitely more for kids, not something that we're gonna appreciate as adults. Knights of X, I'm behind on that one, but I am gonna read that because that's got Gambit in it. But yeah, by and large, I don't care too much about the stuff that came out this week. There's been a lot of good Marvel stuff, but just
a lot of fluff in there.
Yeah, but not from Image. And this is a smaller week from Image. Of course, we got Gunslinger Spawn issue 10, Ice Cream Man 31, Bloodstained Teeth 4, which I fell behind on, and I think you did as well, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I don't even think
you read the first issue, right? Because that was another interview that kind of fell through. Not really, but
so I remember like we never locked it down, so I don't think I ever ended up reading the first issue.
Okay, so there you go.
Saved somewhere, but yeah. It looks awesome though. Like,
Sometimes a little peek behind the curtain. Sometimes we get these interview opportunities. We have to make like really quick decisions, and it's like
we just didn't make it fast enough. I don't.
Yeah, and it's like we don't want to like. Sometimes we just say yes because like okay, yes, let's just do it, whatever. But like we also don't. We want to make sure we know going into it, like we kind of like it at least at the start, so we feel comfortable for telling you guys about it more.
Right.
But then we got Farmhand 19, Seven Sons issue 2. Yeah, really good second issue. Definitely still on track to be talked about on TLDR down the line.
You called dibs on that, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay, because I almost started reading it.
Oh,
I didn't.
I called dibs in the first issue.
Because I'm going through because I said Seven Sons. That sounds familiar, and I went back into my folder. And go, yep, I downloaded it. I must just not have read it, and then I'm like, and something was telling me, don't read it. Don't read it. Yeah. And I did. So that's good.
Thank you, Jiminy Cricket. Then we got Silver Coin issue 12, which I'm behind on. You are right on track with this, right?
Yeah, I read this too. So Stephanie Phillips. This one it was good. It wasn't as good as the previous two. Like this one was actually very predictable. It was still very well written. Set in a World War II setting. Still very good, but like it like the bar, the last two set is like really, really high. But I think I've told you, like Stephanie Phillips, she's becoming like must read for me.
She's writing Grimm, right? That's
yeah. Which is we'll get to that in a minute.
Okay, nice. Well, why don't we go to we got 2 that we wanted to kind of dig into a little bit more. We got the second issue. Why don't you talk about it here? Do a Power Bomb.
So this title. the title absolutely stinks. I will just scream that from a mountaintop. But I love the first issue. A funny thing happened with the second issue. It didn't start off very strong. I thought the dialogue wasn't great, and I thought it was a little on the nose, like over explaining wrestling terms, that again, like the common, a non-wrestling fan might not know, but it was a little simplistic in its writing to start. And I almost gave up on the book. I almost said, I think I'm out on this. And then the last third of the book, and especially the ending, said, nope, right back in. Right. Because the storytelling went from being sort of simplistic and just kind of lame to then all of a sudden, like, boom. Like, I don't know what happened, like, but there was like a switch was flipped like halfway through, and especially that last third and the ending that just was like, okay, this is what the first book was. All right, I'm back in.
That's very interesting.
The art isn't my favorite style of art for this book, but it's okay. It fits with the story. And so I was having some issues with the art. I was having some real issues with the writing. I was like, I think I'm out. I literally said that. Like, I almost just, X'd out of it and moved on to the next book. But it's not keep with it. And then, boom, it fucking hooked me.
So that's interesting. So that's important. Like, so for those readers out there who are picking this up and are excited after that first issue, like you, like, read it the whole way through. Obviously, we're getting review copies, so it's a little bit easier for us to kind of put it down and be like, no, we're all set. When you're buying it, you want to finish reading it. Like there's definitely a difference there. but yeah, that is wild that like it kind of turned around at mid issue and kind of redeemed itself by the end. But the point about the art, I kind of feel that a little bit, not because I don't like it, but so Rogues Gallery issue 1 was the other one, and I have called dibs on this book.
Yes.
When I read this, like I saw the art and I was like, okay, this is solid. Like it makes sense. Like I'm reading the story, it makes sense for the story. Not my favorite, but it absolutely fits still. That said, I still like the story a lot. I think it has a ton of potential. I only gave it, I think, an 8.3 when you do like the factors that we calculate over on Geeks Worldwide. The story I gave an 8.5, but overall the issue I gave an 8.3 with my grading, because the ending was good. Like it was the ending made sense, but it was abrupt. And I was like, okay, either we should have like saved this last image for next issue, or maybe you should have moved it up a little bit because you kind of like it was a jump that makes sense in the course of the story. And if you read the synopsis going in, which I kind of lost sight of going into the story, it still tracks, but it's like we kind of like yada 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 something in there. And I know we're going to go back to it. I have confidence we're going to go back to it in the second issue and kind of get a little bit more detail about what happened from like the second to last page to the last page. But it's just like it was too much of a jump. That said, like everything else from start till the second to last page, it was awesome. Like totally, like I'm all in on it. And we've talked about Chip Zdarsky's Public Domain, right? We had him on and talked
Yep.
about a little bit with him. And obviously, you've read the first 3 issues because you're on Substack. I've read the first issue, and it's a meta commentary and everything right there on the comic book industry, more specifically looking at the movies. This is more looking at fandom within comics and within the shows specifically. And I really like that and how they're taking aim, how the creative team's taking aim at that. So I'm all in after that first issue. I think it has a ton of potential. I think the second issue, you have a little bit of a job to do because of that jump that you took at the end, but still, I think it's like I felt very comfortable calling dibs on this with you after reading the first issue.
It'll be interesting to see if you end up sticking with dibs, because it sounds like it was like, I mean, you see
Yeah,
the potential in it, but it has a possibility of letting you down.
it does because I think the ending was just so like, wait a minute, that didn't make a whole lot of sense. And like the art, it's not. I say that about the art, and it's not like it's bad. It's just like, okay, like it's solid, like whatever. Like I mean, like when you think about the context of the story, it does make sense. And we've talked about that before, how it is important to not just have the art styles that you or I necessarily like. It's more about having art that fits the story, and it does fit it here. I just felt like with this story, you have a bunch of different avenues that you could take. Maybe I'll feel differently after the second, third issue. But with regards to the story, like I do think a lot of it was well plotted out. The dialogue was great. The characters that we meet, it was very interesting. Like given the way the synopsis is, like looking back at it, the way that was the story was positioned, the angle that they took in the first issue, like sets the stage for like kind of you're getting to know the villains of the story more so a little bit more. So I found that very interesting. So I see a lot of potential in this title after a solid first issue. And sometimes, I just want to give you the middle finger and call dibs too. So,
Okay, I wasn't even going to read it, so
oh,
that works.
well, look at that's an image number 1. You're not giving it a look. Wow, that's
Yeah,
well, that's surprising. The synopsis I thought was really cool. I don't have it in front of me right now, but anyways, I digress. We got Skybound, of course, which prints through Image. It's Kirkman's company. The Walking Dead Deluxe issue 43. And then you actually were saying we're going to talk a little bit more about Stephanie Phillips. Why don't we go over to Boom real quick? We got Angel 7. We got Alice Ever After issue 4, which I did read. Enjoying that series. Going to talk about it on the show with you at some point down the line. Faithless 3. Issue 6, of course, one of my favorite titles when they do that kind of shit. But then Grimm, we got another issue of Grimm that I am holding off on because you called dibs.
Yeah, I'm putting this on my short list for book of the year.
Wow, okay, 3 issues. I think that's fair.
It's on my short list. That it could change, right? But each issue just gets better and better, and I don't know what it is, about Stephanie Phillips writing. It's just, it's to the point. she's
Hmm.
just right now weaving together, like there's a lot of intrigue into what's going on and dealing with this world of death, the concept of death, and there being many grim reapers, but also this conspiracy theory um that's going on in hell, and everything that's going on. Like the art is beautiful. I meant to look up the artist before I came on so that I could, shout out the artist name, because the art in this book is a very important part of,
Find it
I
for you.
think, the success. Who is it?
I'll
Oh, you're
find
gonna
it for
find.
you. Yeah.
Because the art is beautiful and the characters are great. There's a lot of intrigue. I mean, Stephanie Phillips might have been writing for a while now, and I'm just finding her out now.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
like, I love discovering new writers, and I love that a lot of those new writers that I'm discovering are female, and she's fucking killing it. And like I said in the Silver Coin, like even though like story wise it was very predictable, it was still very well written. And the thing with the Silver Coin is, especially with this arc, like the bar has just been like up here. So even though it's a notch down, it's not a knock on her writing or the book. It just it just is what it is. It was still really good. But
Mm-hmm.
with Grimm, man, I love it. I love all the characters. I'm fully invested. And with this particular issue dropping this week, like I want issue 4 now. And that to
Mm.
me is the staple of any good book. When I want that next issue immediately, it's like when you're watching something, I want that next issue of The Witcher, or that next episode of The Witcher now. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like I
Oh
want
yeah.
the next season of Stranger Things now, right? So that's, to me, that is it. Like when you got to when you're at a level where where you've gotten me to that level, boom,
Yeah, you're into
boom,
something.
yeah,
Yep. Yeah. The artist for Grimm is Flaviano Armentaro.
yes,
Yep.
yes. I'm not familiar with this artist.
No, neither am
I've
I.
seen the name, I think maybe on some covers or something, but
Huh.
um, absolutely gorgeous art, gorgeous art. So
Must be nice.
yeah.
Must be nice. But I got Alice Ever After, so I'm well. Something tells me I'm going to enjoy Grimm a little bit more by the way you're talking about it. But I don't know. I've really enjoyed Alice Ever After, but
I
that's
think we should try and make it a point that when I talk Grimm, you talk Alice Ever After.
see. I know you forget things, but I can't tell if you're fucking with me right now. If you're being dead serious,
Now I'm
did you?
being dead serious.
I said that. We said that. We I don't know who said it. But we said that like.
I know you said it, but I'm just reiterating it. We should do
Ugh,
that.
okay. All right. I'm losing my mind over here. Anyways, fucking asshole. From Dark Horse, we got Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to Be Kin, issue 3, can't miss stuff. The Lonesome Hunters, issue 2, Manor Black 2, issue 4 from our guy Cullen Bunn. Then we got IDW, Usagi Yojimbo, issue 29. Of course, Joe talked about Usagi a little while back. Then we have Dark Spaces, Wildfire, issue 1, which is from friend of the show, Scott Snyder, and sort of friend of the show, Hayden Sherman. Of course, we've had Sean Lewis.
Friend by proxy.
By proxy, yes.
Yeah, Hayden
Although,
Christensen.
another person you're probably pissed off, yeah, because you messed up his name. It's Melissa Flores, it's Hayden Sherman, it's Chip Zdarsky. I mean, you're just pissing everybody off.
Well, I
so.
tried to blackmail Chip Zdarsky. That's a different story.
This is true, but he gave you a ton of shit that first time around too. It's just the chemistry is not there. You know what? You're the bad boy of podcasting.
Yes, that's right.
That's what it comes down to.
The bad boy of books.
Oh my god, we're gonna put that on your tombstone. That's amazing.
No, my tombstone's gonna say, "I can't believe he ate the whole thing."
But you got to put that on your Twitter profile. The bad boy of books.
Bad boy of books.
Oh my god. From AWA, we got the Joneses issue 4. Devil's Highway issue 3. I love Devil's Highway is one of my. I think that might be my favorite AWA title period. Of course, this is the second volume of Devil's Highway. Dynamite Samurai Sonya issue 2. Jennifer Blood issue 10. Source Point Press. We got the Little Red Ronin issue 1. Nook 2. Corollary issue 4. Aftershock, Bunny Mask, The Hollow Inside, issue 3, of course. Loving that series. I am caught up on that, and I feel like I hadn't talked about the second issue after catching up on that, but I did catch up there. A Calculated Man, issue 2. The Brother of All Men, issue 1. The Ocean Will Take Us issue 4 that wraps up Aftershock. And then we look to Comixology, where when we had our solicit for July, we said, no fucking way. Like, this has got to be a typo. There's no way all 3 first issues are coming out. And then I hear from Scott Snyder, yeah, all 3 issues are going to be coming out on the same fucking day.
To our credit, Comixology has fucked us more than, not Comixology, sorry. League of Comic Geeks has fucked us a ton.
Yes.
So there was the skepticism was warranted.
Yeah, unfortunately, they kind of have a monopoly when it comes to that kind of stuff because no one does it quite as well. Like, you go to Image, they only go so far out with what's coming out next.
Right, and so don't even get me started with Previews World. That was fucking. I tried that. That was brutal.
Yeah, so it's like League of Comic Geeks is the place to go, but for a while they've been running into some.
And the fucking ads on that website now are fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, but guys, the price of business. But from Comixology this week, we got Dudley Dotson issue 1, which is on my list of Snyder Scotttober books. Then we got Barnstormers issue 1, which is on Joe's. Everyone remembers the famous draft that we did that Joe still has under protest to this day. And then Canary issue 1. Did you read Barnstormers?
I did. I did. So what's funny about this is that this was the last book taken in the draft, and I remember when we had Scott on. I mean, he's been talking about Barnstormer since the first time we had him on, because it's this period in time that he's very fascinated with. Because I think he kind of came out of us talking to him about American Vampire 1976 and wanting to kind of go back in time and talk about that period of time. And then he started talking about like his romanticism with Barnstormers and this 1940s era, I believe. And it's something that he had been like kicking around his head for a very long time that I even think he wrote short stories on. And so it seemed just like a sort of a very romantic sort of thing. And I remember on the list of all the books, and this is, not to knock the book. It was just, if I were to rank them, this was, bottom of my list that, coming in that I wanted to read. And it was the last one drafted because it was the last, it was my turn. I had the last pick and because you cheated, but that's a different story.
I don't know.
But what intrigued me about this book was that it was Scott Snyder working with Tula Lote and her art. You want to talk about gorgeous art. I mean, her art is beautiful. Stephanie Hans's art is beautiful.
I was gonna say, when I see her stuff, I think Stephanie Hans.
Right, just because there's a beauty to it. There's just it's comic book art on a different level, right? It's like Dan Mora, like his art is next level. But when I look at that, I strictly think comic book art. Right.
Agreed.
When I look at Tula Lote's art, or when I look at Stephanie Hans's art, I think of like art, like paint it, put it, frame it, put like it just it's
sure.
It's
you
different,
sure you're doing
right?
comics? You sure you want to do that? Yeah.
Right. And so I'm reading the story, and again, it's sort of billed as sort of like this romantic murder mystery thing. So you got me, you had me at Scott Snyder. You really had me with Tula Lote. Now you've got me with murder mystery, because I remember at the time thinking, oh, this is just going to be some, sort of just like love story, just a period piece that Snyder wanted to write. But getting into it, reading it, there's some characters here that are definitely a little flawed. They're very well written, as you'd expect. But I've gotten attached to the main character like really quickly, just because he seems to be a bit of a wise ass and a bit of a fuck up. So like I can relate to that. But you mix that with the art, and there's a lot of intrigue here. And in typical Scott Snyder fashion, he's just really good at building stories. So when you get to the end, it's just like, okay, boom, all right, let's go. And so I was pleasantly surprised. I'm very glad that I ended up with this book in the draft. This might be the last one I have, because all the books I drafted came out early, pretty much. And
I feel like you have one more, because I'm pretty sure there were 8 Scotttober books.
Yeah, I might have one more.
Because Jock's the one with Scott and Jock is not coming out till like I think the fall ish or something to that.
Right.
And maybe who knows? Maybe it'll be 2023.
Right.
Maybe it'll be after the last issue of the Last Ronin. I'm not
Right.
sure, but yeah, I think because I know that's coming out, and I don't think it's coming out alone.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I think you have one more. I just cannot remember for the life of me what it is. I know that I took Dudley Datsun, and then I took Canary. And Canary, I would say Jock. I would say going into it, the ones that I wanted the most, I think I got all three of them because I wanted We Have Demons, which we talked about
Yeah.
on the show at length. Of course, that is out now in collected edition. And then I wanted, I think it was the Jock book next, and then I wanted Canary. And Dan Panosian is the artist on this, and
Yeah.
holy shit, I am so glad I got this.
Yeah. It was on my short list too.
It's fucking good, Joe. It's good.
Yeah.
Really fucking good. Like right now, it is comic of the week for me. And I've read, and unlike most weeks where we usually have like 3 or 4 that are like in that range that I got to look at, I feel like I got everything that is going to be in that conversation read at this point. And holy shit, Canary is awesome. Panosian's art is outstanding, and it fits the Western vibe so much. Absolutely perfect. And the main character is Marshall Azrael William Holt. And oh my God, I love this character.
Yeah.
He is such a fucking asshole, but he's also like trying to get the job done. And he like does get the job done. That's like his thing. And it's kind of like you got a little bit of American Vampire going in the sense that he's like was the dime novels written about him. So everybody has like this opinion of who this guy is, and they know like they've heard of him, but like you don't like there's obviously there's some fiction to those dime novels too. So it's really interesting. And the first couple pages, like this is set in Utah territory right before 1900.
I wanted this book.
Yeah,
I was gonna. It was between this and the Clear. I took the Clear, and then I took Clear, and I took Night of the Ghoul back to back, knowing that I was going to miss out on Canary, but I almost took Canary over one of those other two.
Yeah, and if I'm glad you reminded me. When the fuck are you going to talk about those 2 books? Because I want to read Night of the Ghoul. That is the one after reading it that I was most upset that I had to wait on. So we need to talk about those on the show soon. I know we're doing all these interviews, but I've been dying for that one. But anyways, there's some action in this, and it's really good. And the premise of everything too, like it's you talk about who done it. This is like we know who done it here, but there's a series of like murders happening across the country, and it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like you have no clue. And then you kind of get it's tying back to the thing with this character, the Marshall, who something happened in his past, and now he's got to go revisit that. And it's like it seems to be tied to what's going on here, but we don't know exactly what it would be. So there's a lot of gray area there, of course, which we're going to explore in this story. But man, you got a character that you love, an interesting premise, art that fits the story so well, and just great art in general. So I could not be higher on Canary.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely fantastic, and I wanted this book big time.
It's making me enjoy it even more. I got to be honest.
We'll see when I do Night of the Ghoul on the show.
Yeah.
No.
Wow. You're gonna make me fucking. Waited long enough for this shit.
Quick question, serious question. Do we know when Night of the Ghoul is going to be released in paperback form? Because that will be the time to do it, right?
Yeah, we're trying to wait on that. That's what it was.
The same with Canary, right?
I don't like it when you make good points.
I know.
I really don't. No, we're waiting on that. Still, Dark Horse is going to be putting that out. So
because they did. We Have Demons relatively soon, but also that We Have Demons was how many issues?
It was 3. So
3,
that would be the difference.
Night of the Ghoul 6, right? Clear is 6.
But they were, I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, we'll definitely get to those for sure.
You're right. That is why we've been waiting, because I was wondering. It's like there's got to be a good reason, and unfortunately, there is one. Otherwise, you could do it next week possibly. But anyways, we still got DC that we haven't hit on, and we're 40 minutes into the episode. So from DC, we got Flash 784, Batman Superman World's Finest issue 5, Catwoman 45, Dark Crisis Young Justice issue 2. Black Adam issue 2, which I didn't realize that. I got to read that one. Fables 153, Aquaman, The Flash, Void Song issue 2, DC versus Vampires All Out War issue 1, which is a spinoff in this event, which I will talk about this event when it is done. And it was like, this is probably of the spinoffs that we've gotten, because we've gotten a few, not really great, but there are some serious things that happened in the course of it. Artemis Wanted issue 1. I didn't read all the Amazon stuff that's happened recently. I kind of fell off on Wonder Girl, then it got canceled. So I was like, why am I going to go back and read it? But I like Artemis a lot, so I did read this. Solid. I think it's more for a younger audience, but still, it was solid. I'd love to see an Artemis stuff, so I always appreciate that. Would love to get more of her. Then we got 2 books that we're both reading. One that I did read, one that I haven't. Why don't you talk about the one that I haven't read yet?
Okay, so Nightwing 94.
Nope, I read that one. Shit, I thought I told you.
Yeah, no, you did. I'm being
damn it, you dick. Okay, tell me about Batman the Night issue 7.
So, I mean, this was, out of all the books that Chip's written, the first 6 issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
Each book has shown, Bruce at a different stage of his training. And this is the first time, and what's been great about this series, right, is that we've seen Bruce fail a lot, right? He's been second fiddle a lot,
Mm-hmm.
he's finding his footing. With this issue, we see Bruce, he's realizing that his training is almost complete, right? And we get,
No, don't spoil anything for me. What the hell is the matter with you?
Okay.
I know that. You bastard. What's the matter with you?
So we see Bruce, he's realizing that he's at, his training is almost complete. And so who his last mentor was I didn't see it coming, but very fitting.
Is it the person who's on the cover? Because I did see the covers.
Who's on the cover?
The variant cover.
Who's on the variant cover? I don't know who's on the variant cover.
I don't want to spoil it for people. I'm not going to say it. Never mind.
Okay.
I'll find
the book's out. The book's out.
Is it somebody who's like
jazz hands?
No, magic.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. It is that person.
Okay.
Yep.
And so it was a very fitting final mentor for Bruce. But what we get Bruce Wayne, the most vulnerable I think you've ever seen him in any property of Batman that has existed.
Wow, that's saying a
lot. Yeah,
I feel like we see after what we've seen recently from Chip.
And it's very emotional, and it's a bit gut wrenching. But it is something that is like, for the first time, has made Bruce Wayne relatable. Like, you get okay, where he's coming from, where he's trying to get vengeance for his dead parents, right? Like that you can always sort of relate with, because you can think about if that ever happened to you, right? But at the end of the day, he's still Batman. He's still very smart. He's still super fucking rich, right? And so there's something there where there's a little bit that's relatable, but not really at the same time. This it's like you sit there and you really, really want to just sort of kind of break down with him. And it happens towards the end of the story. And again, this is why I always praise Zdarsky. He gets people. He knows how to write emotion, right? Just like Jeff Lemire. Those are 2 of the best, right? You throw Sean Lewis in the mix as well, and this was just such not a ton happened in this issue, but a ton happened at the same time, if that makes sense. So I don't know how many issues this is planned to be. 12, right? So 8, 9, right? So we're right there. We're in the last arc here. So we're starting to see I think we're going to really start seeing now with these last several issues the transition into going from the idea of wanting to do good becoming Batman.
It's really interesting how well he's done with this, because it's like that you have everything at your fingertips where you could absolutely thrive. And of course, we trust Chip, obviously, but this is stuff that you can easily go and make mistakes on, because you know what's there. It's try too hard, try and do too much, try and get too cute, all these things. But we haven't, we talk about some of these books where it's it's been a solid issue, but it wasn't where it was at the same level as other things. We haven't said that yet about Batman the Night.
Yeah, and it's a Batman book, and we haven't gotten Batman yet, right?
Yeah.
It's a Bruce Wayne book, right?
Yeah,
And like, who would have thought that? Even though it was called The Joker, it was a Jim Gordon book. But whoever would have thought that would have worked, and it did. And so, I love this idea where we're going to have this, 12 issue story where 90% of it doesn't even have Batman, right?
It's
And
crazy.
that's why I think that's why it's been so brilliant. And this is definitely on the short list as well of book of the year, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think
Right.
I haven't really started thinking in those terms, but it would make sense to start thinking in those terms. Probably would start make sense to do that right out the gates, so that way when we do this at the end of the year, we're not like cramming so much.
Well,
But
one of the things I've started to do is that when we get our review copies, I make folders for all the books and I put every issue, I've got them organized. And so what I
mm,
started doing is not putting in the first issue. So I've got like, this is my neuroses. I've got, every month and every week of every month in there, when Marvel, Vault, DC, blah, 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 all the review copies that we get. And when I'm done reading an issue, I move it and I put it into the folder of its particular title. But I've been leaving the number one issues alone. So when I go through and I look at January and I can, okay, that came out this month, this came out this year,
mm,
this is, so that I don't forget. Because I think when we've done the oh Jesus, what do we call them?
the annual.
The annual, you forget a lot of the books that came out in the year because there's so many. So
Right. Oh, it's so easy to do that. And
yeah.
I now as you're talking about it, I'm like, I'm just, you know what? I'm glad you're my partner because you are organized and you have this all done. So I'm not gonna have to fucking do it. So really, I really appreciate it. But one thing we did both do before this issue was we made sure that we got to Nightwing 94, and the ending of this issue
Oh
is just like, oh, what the fuck?
yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
it's
I
so good.
kind of saw it coming. I was hoping it wasn't, but like,
Yeah.
but still, it still hit you like a sack of bricks. Oh fuck! Oh shit! Oh fuck!
Yes, so
Like,
for me, so I saw it coming in the final few pages. Like I didn't see it coming at all beforehand. Did you?
I started to have a feeling it would happen when
Was it when a certain individual showed up at another individual's residence?
no,
Was it before that?
the phone call
So right
saying
before
you
that.
want to get out of Dodge. That's when I had the feeling it was going to happen, or it
Uh
possibly could happen.
okay. Okay.
Yeah,
That's really early.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And you then thought that was gonna lead to what ended up happening.
My feeling was that, ooh, so and so is flying a little too close to the sun here.
Okay.
Yep,
Interesting.
yep.
Okay.
And
See,
whether
for
it happened this issue or, I didn't necessarily think it would happen this particular issue, but
that's fair.
I thought
Yeah.
it was.
Okay, that's fair. I did think that they're flying too close to the sun, but I didn't think that was going to what happened this issue was going to happen. And then there's another phone call that happens later. That's where I was like, okay, now someone's in real trouble. But then what we end up finding out is just like, wait a
Yeah,
minute. So do you think that's what you think?
yeah,
Fucking idiot. You had all
yeah,
summer to figure this thing out.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Figure out what your deal is. But
yeah,
anyways, but yeah, so then that's where it's like, oh, I really hope that this doesn't what's about to happen, what I think's gonna happen doesn't happen, and then it does happen, and it's like,
yeah.
fuck,
Fuck. Yep.
fuck, this is not good. This is really bad. Yeah, this is really
Yeah.
bad, but it's great for the story. Yeah, Tom Taylor, Bruno Redondo, they're killing it. They continue to kill it. Nightwing is like it continues to be one of the actually I don't think Redondo was the artist on this. It was Borges, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm reading that correctly. Who was the artist on this issue, but it just continues to be must-read stuff. Nightwing's
Yeah.
outstanding.
Yeah.
Everything Tom Taylor, Nightwing, and the art. He's worked with some various mixed artists throughout this. Of course, Redondo is the main artist on it. Everything since then, if you like Nightwing, if you care about him at all, go read that stuff 100%.
Yeah.
But Tom Taylor, you want to talk about another Tom Taylor book today? Actually.
Yeah. Talk about it. Talk about a segue. So the book that I'm discussing this week, and I said it was pretty much because I mean I wanted to talk about this book, but I was kind of on the fence about it, and then the last two issues really said, nope, you gotta discuss this one. Is Superman, Son of Kal-El, written by Tom Taylor. Now the artist here, the primary artist, at least on the first arc, was John Timms. Colors Caleb Eltieb, letters by Dave Sharp. But the past arc and a half, there's been just a sort of like with Nightwing. There's just been a whole slew of different artists, colorists, inkers, So I'll mention some of those towards the end. because I did want to at least, you mentioned a few of them. But synopsis: Jonathan Kent has experienced a lot in his young life. He's traveled the galaxies with his Kryptonian grandfather and lived in the future with the Legion of Superheroes, who were intent on training him for the day his father, Clark Kent, could no longer be Superman. There's a hole in the Legion's history that prevents John from knowing exactly what will happen, but all signs point to it being very soon. It's time for the son to wear the cape of his father and bear the symbol of hope that he has told the world that has told the world who Superman really is. I was fucking killing it until the end.
You were almost there.
It was all I just couldn't just like this. The guy in Barnstormers couldn't land the plane.
Ooh, okay.
So we're sitting at 13 issues of an ongoing series. As far as I know, it's ongoing.
Yeah, as far as I know.
And so the premise is, as mentioned in the synopsis, is Superman is off on Warworld, and he doesn't know if he'll ever come back. And so now Jon Kent is Earth's protector.
Was that your most disappointing? What was that event called that we did a whole bunch of stuff
Future State?
Future State. Was that your least favorite title, if I'm not mistaken?
It was, and I think part of it, and I think I would have appreciated it more had I been reading Action Comics, which I hadn't been. I still read Action Comics, but they just did a very bad job with the Superman stuff in Future State. There should have been a better, like
the Clark Kent Superman stuff, because Sean Lewis obviously did a good
job.
Yeah,
true. Well, he did Jonathan Kent, right? The Clark Kent stuff, because I was very lost, and there needed to be something, that brought in the casual reader up to speed. But that's just me. But Jon Kent is Earth's protector, and so what Taylor does and has been doing, not just in this, but also with Nightwing, right, is that he does a great job with making these characters relatable, characters you want to invest your time into, and Nightwing is different because Nightwing's not a superhero. He's not OP. He's, a character that we've known and loved for a very long time. So he's always been a lot more relatable, right? But, Superman, right? The big knock on Superman is that he's OP, right? He's milk and cookies, goody two shoes, all power, super powered. The only thing that can really kill him is a green rock. And so I get why a lot of people aren't big Superman people. I happen to be a Superman person, but
right.
I get that. But what makes Jon Kent unique is that unlike his father, he's also half human. So a lot of times with Superman, he's an alien trying to, fit into what it's like being a human, trying to grasp human emotions. And I think, Clark Kent has been a good embodiment of that, but John actually being half human, there's different. He's got a different perspective that, that his father just never had and will never have. And so, even though, you think of Jon Kent, he's a teenager, he's got all the powers in the world, he's still very unsure of himself, like we all are at 16, 17, 18 years of age. And this is, what I'm talking about Taylor just making this character, relatable. And so there's a big weight on his shoulders to have to wear that cape, because being Superman means a lot.
Could you imagine that?
Right.
Like one day, you find out, I have all these powers, and actually your dad was Superman. I know John knew already, but it's just
and there was a great moment in here between John and Dick Grayson, talking, because John just really doubting himself, and with Dick knowing his father, and things that his father had told, that Clark had told, Dick to tell John. There's a lot of sentimentality. We've seen some of that in Nightwing, especially when it comes to Alfred, and we get a lot of that in this too. So it does get a bit emotional, and I think that's what really sort of grounds this character a little bit. And so the other thing, right, that Taylor has done a great job with, and it is a very important thing we've mentioned a few times, is that not only, right, a heavy, is the crown, right? The heavy is the cape that John has to wear, being Superman. Again, he's half human. He's still there's still a lot of other shit that he deals with that just because of, being a teenager. And and that's self-identification,
Mm-hmm.
right? And Tim Drake came out earlier this year, as did Jon Kent.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the way that Tom Taylor handled that, is that he didn't make Jonathan very nervous about coming out. He didn't make it this whole thing about should I, shouldn't I, am I, is there, should I not come out because I'm afraid of X, Y, and Z? It was just a very natural thing for it to happen. And I think that's really important, because kids are going to read this book, and kids are going to identify, with the things that Jon Kent is going through, and maybe it helps. Who knows,
You
right?
know what?
But it's an important thing.
The way you're talking about Kent and Jon, and how he is handling the nervousness of everything with his dad and everything that's going on, and like essentially his new job that he has to handle, and all the nervousness there, to then go and move to this other thing that everybody sees as like a big deal and in a major challenge to have to tell the world, like tell your family. He goes and treats it like it's nothing. I think I agree with you. I think to me, when I hear that, I didn't know this coming in, because obviously I haven't been reading it. I've seen the people who get upset about what Tom Taylor's done, and it's like, get the fuck out of my face.
Yeah.
But then to hear how he's doing it from you, it's like, I don't think you could be doing it better. I mean,
yeah,
that's amazing.
It's been absolutely perfect, because I think that's how it should be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, that's not how it is. But hopefully,
it should be like, my hair is black, my eyes are green, and that's the same thing.
So hopefully, a kid will read this, that will relate and be like, okay, like, because whether you like him or not, Superman is a big fucking deal. Mm-hmm. It's Superman, it's Batman, and then really it's everyone else when it comes to superheroes, right? Say what you will, they're the OGs. They are the OGs. I'm talking about, like, in the pantheon, in the history of comics. Like,
well, we're gonna have our failed superheroes club today, and I think I might contest that a little bit when we get there.
Okay, but you know what I mean? Like,
100%.
First it was Superman, then it was Batman, and they really have carried, like, they were. And so it's a big friggin' deal. And I think that Taylor was a great person to give that to and allow it to write and develop. Just like I think Chip Zdarsky's a great writer to handle Tim Drake. Because Chip, when it comes to sexuality and things, like, yes, you can have fun with it and be goofy, but again, he's able to understand human emotion and what that's like. And I think those are two great writers to write these characters, to make them, to portray them with strength and with acceptance. Mm-hmm. So, like, character development aside, like, Taylor is like knocking it out of the park. When it comes to the actual story itself, again, Taylor's telling a really, really good story here. Superman is gone. Not everyone is thrilled that Jon Kent is the new Superman, right? There's doubt. There's, can this kid really do it? What we saw with what Sean Lewis did in Future State, and the decisions that Jon Kent made there, definitely created a lot of doubt, because it's like, am I doing the right thing? There's this constant struggle with Jon. It's like, what if I fuck up? I'm Superman. If I fuck up, people die, right? Mm-hmm. And it's that constant struggle, and he's learning. We see his growth of just becoming a leader and just taking charge and not trying to second guess everything, because second guess leads to deaths. So you've got Superman coming into his own, but now you've got, people that doubt him, but you've got some really great villains. I mean, Lex Luthor is always going to be there as a villain, but we've got Henry Bendex, who has sort of overthrown this island nation of Gamora. And, what he's doing is that he's taking ordinary people. He's found a way to harvest superpowers and put them in ordinary people and turn them into weapons.
Where is Gamora? What is Gamora? I just took you a little bit there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know you're in the zone. I don't mean to keep throwing you up. Go ahead. You were saying about Gamora, where she is.
That was great. But the bad guy in Henry Bendix and what he's doing with these people it's gotten really good, and he's brought in the Flash, who has been a really great companion to John, and Nightwing. There was a little mini event between Nightwing and the Superman Son of Kal-El books that was actually awesome, because it was like 2 issues in this book, 2 issues in that book, and it was it, and it fit together in both their stories, which was great. And then in the last issue, a new character was introduced, the Dreamer, who's able to travel through people's dreams, and Superman and his partner in the book, Jay Nakamura, who I don't want to talk too much about because I don't want to spoil anything, but needs to get him to a safe place, takes him to the Fortress of Solitude, and the whole time that they're getting there, he's saying, you'll be safe here. It's an impenetrable fortress. No one can get in. And he opens the fucking door, and here's this new character, the Dreamer, and he's like, how the fuck did you get in here? And she sort of explains, and then you find out that they're from the future. There's a history, not between these two characters, between John and the Dreamer, and specifically, but between her race of people. And so we get a lot of revelations here. And now where the story's going, like the story, like I said, like it got off to a hot start, it flatlined a little bit, and then it's been picking up steam, and now it's fucking blasting off. So like I think this is, for those who aren't Superman fans, I think you would enjoy this book.
Okay.
Right? Because it's not just a regular Superman story, flying here and there and saving the world, always winning, and stuff like that. There's a lot of great character work here. I think the plot, what you learn when you learn more and more about these characters as the story goes on, it pulls you in deeper and deeper, which has been great.
See, when I read the first, because I believe I read the first issue, and then you were like, you loved it, and I was like, it's solid, but it's not like it's not knocking my socks off. And I love Taylor, but when then I said you can have it, and then you'll do it on the show down the line. Honest to God, Joe, this conversation has like really, it's knowing what Taylor was doing already, to me, was impressive, because I know he's going to get a lot of pushback on what he's doing in terms of just Jon Kent's sexuality and him being bisexual. But now hearing how he handled it, and then everything else that you've discussed throughout all this, like, yeah, this really won me over. And like, now I want to catch up with you on the series.
Yeah. I think it's I think it's a must read. Just in general, just because of the themes, but also just the storytelling. It does have a couple of lulls, right? Like it does take, once Taylor really finds the footing of where the story is going, like I said, it really takes off. But that's not to say that everything prior to that is, it's not good. It's just, you know what I mean? It's like you get there, and then boom. And so, like I said earlier too, as I wrap this up here, is that the art throughout this entire series has been fantastic, but there have been a lot of different artists associated.
Yeah, I don't like that.
Right. Tim's was the primary artist on the first arc. And then the second arc, and starting the third arc, we get a lot of Cyan Torme is done a majority of the art, but you've had Bruno Redondo, do an issue, which was part of the Nightwing Batman.
Right.
I mean, Nightwing Superman, crossover there. So I don't know why this is the case for either book, but the art has been solid no matter who's been doing it throughout. You can definitely tell, oh, this issue, the art is a different artist on this issue. Oh, there's a different artist on this. So I wish there was a little bit more consistency there, but it doesn't take away. But it is noticeable.
That's the one thing that, like, and I didn't know this till well after the fact from you telling me, but like that is one thing when you're talking about like the big two that can grind my gears a little bit, because it's just like, but at the same time, like, especially as we've gotten to know creators more, over the duration of us doing TLDR, things happen with artists. Like they get injured, like obviously they're humans, so like other life stuff pops up, but that can be like, for them, like injuries can make a big difference. It's not like a writer where you're just on a keyboard and typing stuff. Like you need to use your body and stuff. I don't know if that's what's happened with Tim's or with Rondo, but other things pop up, so who knows. But that is frustrating.
Yeah, But it doesn't take away from the book, and the art has
That's
been
huge.
stellar throughout. But it is noticeable.
That's huge though. Still, like that's still huge it still works. In the end, I mean, like, but even though you do kind of notice it to some extent, but it is now time for me to get into my book, and it's a TKO book. I haven't done this in a while, but I have talked about TKO books a lot on this show, and this was part of, I guess it was their fourth wave, if I'm not mistaken. The fourth wave. So we talked to Tze Chun, who is the of course the actually co-founder of TKO Studios, but he was the writer for The Forgotten Blade, which we talked about on here. I did
Which was
review that
awesome.
I did review that for Geeks Worldwide. I gave that a 9 out of 10. Really, really enjoyed that series. We ended up, so we talked about him with that and everything else, but then we have Black Mass Rising, and we didn't get to do an interview for that one. And this was actually the one when I looked at the two, I was like, I want to read that shit real bad.
Yeah.
Like I really like, and I have the TKO. So we get the review copies for all this different stuff, right? And it's great. And reading it in digital form too. I forget, do you have an iPad or a tablet?
I do, yes.
You do. You read your digital copies on there, right?
Generally,
Yeah.
yes.
So I do that as well. Long before we did this show, I actually read like all the review copies on my computer, and it was just not like, I had no time for it. And I was never a tablet guy, but 100% need it for that stuff. But to TKO's credit, they give us the hard copies, and obviously they have their collected edition of each issue. That's how I ended up reading Black Mass Rising, which is written by Theo Presides. I apologize if I'm saying the name wrong. Jody Muir, and then the letters are by Hassan Otsmani El How. And when it comes to, you talked about the art before with Tula Lotte and with Stephanie Hans. I don't know if Tula Lotte is from Europe. I don't know if Jody Muir is either. We know Stephanie Hans is, but where we talked to, who was it? We talked Melissa Flores, who we talked to recently about, people overseas and their art style and how impressive it is.
America Andolfo, right?
Yeah, America Andolfo. She said Italians. I was like, Italians. It's like, America Andolfo is there too, and she has a unique style, but an awesome one. Jody Muir, I don't know if she is. I didn't look it up, but man, I looked at her art, Joe, and I'm like you see, that's her art on the cover, but it's like that doesn't look like comic book art. Not at all. It is way too impressive for this shit. And it definitely threw me off when I read it at first, but I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. This is 6 issues in typical TKO fashion. You can get it in a collected form, as I showed you guys that I have. You can also get it in single copy issue as well. When I looked at some stuff after when I was doing the review, actually at the end of this book, they have all of the other covers, and they got some kick-ass covers for that. I know you have is it a Lemire Sentient signed?
I have Lemire
box?
Sentient signed box set, and then I have the 7 Deadly Sins Tze Chun box set as well.
So that is the big thing too. Like if you're gonna do like the one issue we run into floppies is how are you gonna fucking store these things? TKO takes care of that for you. So just something to keep in mind. If that's more your speed, no matter what, I always prefer the trade version.
I got to get my hands on the hard copies of those books.
Yeah,
I haven't read this one yet, but the Forgotten Blade.
Yeah, well, no, I'll give you. I have I meant to ask you if you wanted that one because I'll keep Black Mass Rising since I'm doing it on the show. And if you want Forgotten Blade, I'll give that to you when I see you next. But the synopsis for this one, it's funny. I didn't look at shit for this going into it. Like I had no clue about the synopsis or anything like that. We had just done the Forgotten Blade, and I'd reviewed that as well. I gave that a 9 out of 10. I gave this a 9.2 out of 10, a little bit better. And I do wonder if I saw the synopsis, how that would have impacted me for better or for worse. I don't know if it would have done either way, but the synopsis on this: 1 year after Vlad Dracula's death, hope is returning to the lands of Transylvania. As the shadows of 100 years of darkness begin to fade, a young peasant girl dares to dream of a better future. But when a mysterious healer drifts into town, a new evil begins to stir among the ruins of the Lord of the Undead's former castle.
Fucking A.
Awesome, right?
Yeah.
So the only part that I like the Vlad Dracula part, because obviously you hear Vlad Dracula, for those who don't know, that's Dracula, right? So that's the only part. Other than
is?
Okay, dear Dick. See, again, you motherfucker. All right, you got me back. All right, you got me back. You won. But that was still But I will say, fairly early in this story, you find out that this is set in Transylvania after like a serious traumatic event happens, which is pretty quick. And the thing about you're such an asshole. Presidi's writing too. This dude does not hold punches at all. Like, we're talking women and children. Like, hide your kids, hide your wife, because they're fucking coming after everybody in here.
Love it.
It is crazy. And you meet this healer character. So the three main characters. They talked about the peasant girl. Her name is Aurelia. Solid. She definitely adds some interesting things in here, but she's definitely, of the three main characters, 3 on my power rankings. You meet her fairly early. I think you meet her first of the 3 main characters. Then you have the healer. And in the first issue, you see what this guy, so he's believed to have, like, in connections with God and everything like that and whatnot, because he's a healer. You see what this guy can do fairly early, and it's like, oh, wow. Like, this guy's a fucking badass. Like, we're talking, you remember the movie Priest starring, I think it was Paul Bettany?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah. So that was based off, I think it was based off a manga, which I've never read, but it's not to like different types of powers in that sense, but I get that vibe right away, because, like, okay, this is a religious man of the church, of the cloth, but he has powers, and he's going out and doing some serious shit. He's not just helping people out, like, he's like in terms of healing them, he's got to like protect them too. So really cool. Like, love the healer at first. In general, love the healer. Then we meet another character at the end of the second issue. We don't find out her name, and I have it jotted down now so you can see it, Joe, but I'm actually not going to share it with people just because I don't want to mess with anything. Just going to leave it at that. But our introduction to that character is really, really badass. And then you find out more about her story later on and how she ties into everything going on. So really cool. They're really, like, she was number 2 for me. Healer's number 1. Awesome stuff for those characters. So you have those 3. I think you have a character that everybody can attach themselves to at some capacity. When I look back at the story on the whole, I mean, it like at the end, especially as I find other synopsis later, find out like this is tied to Dracula. We're in Transylvania, where I didn't have that like perception going in. I'm just blown away by the transformation of the story from the first issue to the last issue to that last image, which is like all the stories happened, and then you get this last image, and it's like, wow. It's fucking nuts. It's awesome. And the first issue too, Joe, the final image, like, so Z told us how, like, they do a longer chapter every time. The first chapter is always slightly longer than the normal 22 pages. I'll tell you right now, you're going to read this. You better fucking read it. But you're going to read it, and you're going to see that end of that first chapter, and like, I shouldn't have fucking read this. I'm going to, it's like all around. I don't think it's nightmare fuel. I think it's like that horror adjacent kind of stuff where it's really cool. It does get violent. You do have some scary images, but nothing that's like going to rattle your cage, except for the final image of that first chapter. So I would try and read 2 chapters in one sitting, Joe. And if anybody else who's like Joe, who gets scared easily, don't read that first chapter at night and have it be the only thing, because it's going to fuck with you a little bit. I already talked about Jody Muir's art style a little bit. Like, it's at first, again, where I don't know where the setting is. It's like, this is interesting. Like, we got this kind of classical style, and where, like, with Stephanie Hans, where it's kind of like more like it's watercolored, but it's kind of like out of control a little bit. Maybe controlled chaos would be a fair way to put it, because obviously she knows what she's doing. But with Jody Muir, it's very refined. I absolutely look at that. I'm like, this feels like it's coming out of like not an old children's book, because there's a certain children's book that scared the shit out of me as a kid, and I should have looked it up beforehand.
Aesop's Fables?
No, it wasn't that, but I can't remember. But it reminded me of this art style, and it's just like, it's very well done, but it's also kind of fucking creepy too. So I love everything like that. It, again, threw me off, but it works perfectly for the story, and it's obviously very impressive art. Story does not move at a breakneck pace. I know we talk about that a lot, and that can be very appealing. I would say very even throughout. Okay. And you have these tentpole big moments, and I think because of how it moves, the story moves, those kind of hit a little bit harder. And I said this in my review, every single like major development feels more important. Like the next one feels more important than the previous one. It's kind of mind blowing how excuse me, how Proceedings is able to do that throughout the course of this. But this is awesome. And the title of the book too, you see that, you think, oh, are they going to mention it? I know that like there's that Family Guy joke where they said it in the movie. You always think with comics that they're going to say it in some capacity. Could be very relevant, could be something that pops up a little bit. The way they do it here, it's so tiny, but it's so like Steph's kiss, and I feel like you don't see it very often where they do this, so it was really cool. And just to kind of get ahead, because I know we always ask these questions, show, movie. I see this as a movie. Definitely has potential. I think it could be a really, really cool movie, actually.
Yeah, it sounds like it, man. Fuck. I gotta. When's the next trade coming? Right?
Yeah.
A year from now.
Yeah. I think you really. Oh, jeez. Yeah, you're probably. Well, you know what? I know normally we have the Failed Superheroes Club that we do at the end of this, but we're going to save it because I do think we obviously run a little long, but I do think that we're going to be doing regular mainline issue fairly soon. I know there's one book in particular you've been telling me, one series that you want to talk about, but people are just gonna have to wait and see, right?
Yeah, because I don't even know what it is.
Oh, I will remind you as I
Thank
typically do. But until next week, Joe, stay sexy.
You know it.